I'm going to go and talk to a guest on a different topic. It's about the millennial generation and what kind of job market is ahead for them. But it's related in some ways. In the middle of this interview, I will relate them because I'm on a warpath. All right, Nancy, you've caught me on an interesting day. Nancy Cooks from Newsweek, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right. So tell us what is the difference between the old school and the new school in terms of how they seek jobs and what their view of the job market is.
Sure. Well, the new school, as you call it, is this generation called the millennials, they've been called, or also Gen Y. And they're people that have been born after 1980. And they primarily approach the job market in a way that they don't expect to work at the same company for years and years. They don't expect to get their health insurance or their 401ks through a corporation. And they tend to work more with projects and just flip from, project to project rather than thinking that they're going to work at a company for even, 2 years or 5 years at the start of their careers.
You know why that is? Because in the old days, people used to trust corporations. Hey, I go work at GM, and I'm going to work 40 years, and I'm going to have my pension. And at the end, they're going to give me a gold watch or something, and then I'm going to retire, and everything's going to be fine. Come to find out that that's a lot of BS.
That's true.
And so, what are we relying on these corporations for? I mean, who's loyal to a company? Who would be stupid enough to be loyal to a company?
That's true. One thing that I found when I was reporting the story was that about 5 years ago, before the economy tanked, there were all of these cover stories on, different business magazines talking about how terrible this generation was because they were so difficult to manage for their baby boomer bosses. They were disloyal to companies. They didn't care about benefits or perks. But the interesting thing is now they're actually in this, actually much better position because they've never thought that corporations were that great anyway. And so they're in a much better position right now because they have never looked to corporations for security. They've put much more emphasis on their own skills, creativity, being entrepreneurial, and finding their own work. And so in a way, they're much better suited than the baby boomer generation to succeed in this post-recession economy.
Yeah, I was very amused when corporate America was crying about how the labor force isn't loyal enough to them. Look, I don't misunderstand me. You can have a family business that is very loyal to their employees. You can have a business that's not even a family business that's been around for a long time, but as long as it's privately owned, you have a shot because there's someone ultimately responsible for that company. And there's some there at least might be some sort of loyalty, et cetera, right? But for publicly owned corporations, they're a machine. They're not humans. Their job is not to be loyal to you or to be sweet to you. They will crush you without putting a second thought behind it because it's by law. They are required to care only about the bottom line.
Yeah, I think a lot of the millennials that I talk to definitely feel that way, and their attitude towards one of them that I spoke to actually worked for AIG for 5 years, and he had this really funny attitude where he was like, I'm going to take the money and run. He was 27, 28, making, $200,000 a year, and he was like, while I work here, I'm going to make a plan to create a hedge fund. I'm going to use this money to buy rental properties. I'm going to use this capital to be really entrepreneurial. And then, he left recently and is going to start a hedge fund. So his attitude was, I'm going to sort of use Wall Street rather than let Wall Street use me.
And if he gets successful enough, one day he will hire a lobbyist, buy himself a couple of politicians, and then he'll wind up raking us over the coals. But look, that's the one positive thing about this. It's true, and that's why your article is very interesting. And it's called "The Workers of the Future." You can find it on Newsweek.com if you're online. Because it's still a meritocracy in that sense. It's kind of a funny word, but you can work up to be the either giant hedge fund of your own or run Goldman Sachs. They're not discriminating based on race or religion or ethnicity or upbringing. They'll just take hard workers who are greedy across the board. so there is hope. And then the other hope I got out of it, Nancy, is that that this next generation will be so much more entrepreneurial because they know they can't rely not just on the companies but Social Security and Medicare. They know that everybody's coming to rob that piggy bank. and that we're
right.
not, and we can't rely on that. So since we're forced to rely on ourselves, maybe you'll get a whole new generation of entrepreneurs who will wind up helping America in some ironic way.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is that the same week that my story came out, the Pew Research Center did this really comprehensive study on millennials, and there's a really interesting political angle to it, too, in that they're much more liberal than their predecessors, and so it'll be interesting to see when their liberal politics and their attitudes towards work intersect, because the thing is right now a lot of them buy their own health insurance on the private market, sort of in an individual way. But it'll be interesting as they move forward, as they get older, if they'll put more pressure on the government to, have more comprehensive universal health insurance to support this kind of self-employed work that they're doing.
Well, if you heard the rest of the program, I'm a little discouraged on that front. I mean, you could have...
I heard part of it, yes.
You could have 300 million Americans say, hey, I would like universal health care coverage, where I have an option of getting something that is not run by a private corporation whose job is to rob me. And they won't do it. The 535 congressmen and senators will not do it because they don't work for those 300 million people. They work for the people who pay them, and the people who pay them are corporate lobbyists. So, let me turn that back around and talk about the baby boomers. Are they still naive? Do they still think, oh my God, if I stay with a company, they'll take care of me, and my Social Security is going to be there, and my Medicare is going to? Do they really think that stuff?
I don't think so. I just think that they haven't been raised to be as entrepreneurial or as creative in their careers. And another thing that I'm looking at that wasn't in the article is that there are a lot of people who are 50 and older, 60 and older, who have been laid off from various industries, everything from manufacturing and construction to professional white collar jobs, and there are a lot of different sort of nonprofit programs at this point that are helping them to reinvent themselves, because there are a lot of jobs that are going to be open in the next 10 years or so in education and healthcare, and the barriers right now that's keeping the baby boomers out of a lot of these jobs isn't their work ethic. A lot of it is technological skills. So one of the hurdles moving forward will be training these people.
I hear you on that. A final thing for you, Nancy, is the Internet. I mean, I think that part of the reason that the younger generation is more savvy about this stuff is because of the Internet. They have actual information. Like if you're an old school guy and you're still watching the evening news, you're getting one lie after another after another. You have no idea what's about to hit you. So is there a chance that the new media is helping the younger generation have a leg up because they actually know what's going on? Absolutely. I mean, they're super well informed, and they, get their news from a variety of ways through social media, Facebook, Twitter, a ton of different online sources, both institutions like the New York Times and then niche blogs. And so that's one thing, and then it really helps them in the workforce because they're much more willing to sort of share information like, how much do you make on this project, what's your salary look like, and use that to leverage with companies to negotiate. And then three, they're also using all those ways to really self-promote themselves, not in a bad way, but, to help them attract more business and get more clients. All right. Nancy Cook from Newsweek. The article is called The Workers of the Future. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Oh, thanks for having me. All right. We'll be right back on The Young Turks.